All right. So when we think about like another perspective, right? One is like there is a process, right? So we have Glenn, and we see with this process there is this leading to behavior, right? And so what we're saying then is that there's something that occurs that leads to this criminal act. So we have Glenn here. We have some source here, which is an outside influence. Before we get to the decision to commit crime, right? And so when we think about like, Glenn, what could possibly be the influence on this, right? So when we think more about like sort of like this process, we're talking a little bit about, like a socialization and what leads and contributes to your mindset. So let's talk a little bit about what that could be, right? So when you are socialized, when you're in the room, right, you have your family. Your family is easily the number one socializer that anyone has, right? They're influencing you, they're giving back, they're suggesting that you do certain things, live a certain lifestyle, and so on, and they play a role. You also have your peers. Peers can come up and they can say, hey man, it's really cool to burn stuff. Do you want to join, right? You're like Ralph Wiggum, like, I want to burn things, right? Like that could be total influence, right? We also have issues related to education. Outside of the family, school is like probably the number one socializer outside the family. So many rules and regulations and like how to behave, how to act, what is not good behavior are used in this role. And it creates a situation where this also influences what you have. You also have, stuff like your neighbors or your neighborhood. There could be, some sort of political leader. And the point being that there is this perspective, right? All these are influencing you, and you end up influencing behavior. Now, this is something that can happen gradually over time, can build up, or it can detract as well. So when we speak about this kind of thing, what exactly, are we talking about? How does this influence, right? Well, if you think about this socialization, right, we, learn morals and ethics, right, which is maybe good. Maybe we want to live in a moral, ethical society. But we can also learn to accept, justify, or excuse behavior. Whether that's because you see a parent do something and you think, oh, I can do that because my, dad does that, right? Or, oh, I was doing it to protect my friends. They taught me this is the way it's supposed to be. Or you look up to a political leader and you say, no, this can't be bad because this person did it and I can justify it. So we have these morals and ethics. We have accept and justify behavior. It could also be in some ways encouraging behavior. So, certain aspects are cultivated and then they're applied to other people. They could, have an undue influence on someone, right? So what ends up happening then is that depending on your view, right, you could have poor socialization. So you're being taught that it's okay to do bad things, hood rat things or something like that. You could also have exposure to delinquent peers. Who decide like, hey, you should do this, right? Without this too, you have a situation where, you could maybe even learn techniques of how to do a certain crime or how to get away with it, and also lead to this kind of behavior. So with respect to this, then, what do we end up doing then, right? So we see that if we go back to, this issue with the uncle, long stringy hair, growing up, he may have had a variety of influences on his thinking, right? So, family on him saying, hey, it's okay to do bad things, or, you have to get justice, and it doesn't matter what the law says, right? You could also have the situation where you distrust police. Maybe that's from society. Maybe you have a distrust of the government. Maybe it comes from your family. And you're like, I don't care what the police do. I'm going to do bad things, whatever I want. You could have a situation where, a peer friend is like, hey, what that guy did was wrong. You should burn his stuff down, right? You could, from education or from another friend, you might learn about arson and how it destroys evidence and it's really hard to solve. So maybe that leads into it. So all these external processes, right? They're processing, they're influencing kind of thinking, and they can probabilistically, not to say that this is definite, but probabilistically lead to more crime. So the point being is that once this happens, we have these issues where we're related to crime. It leads to this decision to make crime. So if we assume this is true, then, how do we address it? So one aspect is we address it by having better parenting programs, right? So we teach parents how to parent better, how to correct behavior. We say what is not right, and we really try to get, someone to not be, a stupid poopy head parent. We can intervene in schools. So we can have schools emphasize certain behaviors and respect for law and order, emphasize different ways to behave that are beneficial. So that could be another way of doing it. This could be, intervening with, like peers, finding out who's on the wrong path and maybe try to set them right on the right course. Maybe not so much punish, but like, hey, you can't do that because of XYZ reasons. And there could also be situations where there is a public education effort to, educate people on the consequences of their behavior, how it can, influence and how decisions today affect long-term decisions, in the future. It could also be that once someone was caught, right, there's sort of a cognitive reframing that occurs. And so one tries to restructure thinking to negotiate some negative thoughts, prevent them from happening, and to limit what ends up happening to them. So, instead of thinking I have to get revenge by burning someone's stuff down, it's like, maybe, do you have to get revenge? Is this the right thing? Are you possibly at fault? Something like that. All of those are, good examples of ways that you can influence behavior. So we'll end up, pausing this right here. This is sort of an introduction. And we'll cover a lot more of this later on in the text and in other classes with theory. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next